Welcome back to CryptosRUs. I'm George. We're all George. So, we all know today was bad, very bad, right? CPI data was not good. Inflation is still high. But was that the whole story? Actually, tonight I'm going to show you guys how I found the method, the way that the whales brought down Bitcoin and Ethereum. And it's probably not what you think. So, let's get started. Smash it a like, subscribe to the channel. Make sure you hit that notification bell to get notified of all my streams. Follow me on social media. Check out CryptosRUs.com. And make sure you follow all my channels out there. Some great, great content. Welcome, 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 guys. Good evening. Hopefully you guys, did something today to get your mind off of markets, because today was absolutely horrible. You know what? Was it really that bad? Let me explain. First of all, U.S. markets, red, completely red. NASDAQ down about 5%, Dow down about 4%. This is actually the worst day we have ever seen so far in 2022. Surprising. I thought, we've seen worse, but no, this is actually the worst sell-off day for 2022, and all the up and downs that we had, right? So think about that for a little bit. So that's actually quite amazing. And why? Why do we fall down? Well, because CPI data, I covered it this morning. Most of you guys already know CPI data came out, so I'm not going to go over everything, but some anticipated that CPI and inflation was going to taper out a little bit more, but came in a little hot, especially core inflation. Overall CPI number actually went down, but the core inflation went up 0.6% rather than 0.3%, and it really just spooked the market, right? And we're not the only country that's facing inflation, right? U.S., even though we're at 8.3%, which is high, it's lower than other nations out there. Europe, Eurozone is 9.1%, right? UK, which did not release their August number yet, they're already at 10%. And Canada's up there too. And I saw this, Canada's Trudeau just announced a new $4.5 billion inflation relief package. Kind of like in the US, how we had an inflation relief package. But here's the thing, it requires the government to print more money to be able to give the inflation relief, right? So by printing more money, you're making inflation worse. So it does seem like there's a lot of curious moves these days about inflation packages and relief packages, yet they're making inflation worse, right? So we're not the only country dealing with high inflation, but that's what we're facing with right now, right? So that's why every move, every single data that comes out is so important and so looked at by Wall Street, right? They're trying to forecast what's coming, how high the rate hikes are going to be, how the economy will be in a few months, right? So Wall Street is all about forecasting. And, I do think they kind of went a little overboard today. A little bit too much selling, but that's how it is. FOMO goes in both directions, right? Sometimes you FOMO downwards and you panic sell, right? So that's exactly what happened today. And of course, with crypto, you could see this is what it looks like in the US for stock market. 1.6 trillion wiped out, which is more market cap than the entire crypto sector, right? And some of the biggest names like Apple, Microsoft, Google, all down about 6%. So it's not just Bitcoin related, but of course you look at Bitcoin and Ethereum and everything else, Bitcoin went down even more, almost 9% today. It's a huge drop, right? And Ethereum, everyone else, pretty much all red, right? So obviously it's just not a good day overall. It's not just crypto related, but I found some interesting things though, very interesting things in terms of how the whales brought Bitcoin and crypto and basically Ethereum and everyone else down even more. Besides this panic selling, in fact, I'm going to show you something that will surprise you. There were actually a lot of people that were buying, DCAing. Like, Yes, a ton of people. And that's to be expected because the market is a lot bigger and more mature. The holders in this space have seen worse, right? And they're buying. But what really caused the selloff? Well, there's a couple things. Number one, we had a lot of liquidations, long liquidation, about $290 million worth, right? And you could see, oof, you know, of course, anytime there's any huge movement, we see a lot of liquidations because there's a lot of people that's playing with leverage, right? But that's not the only reason, although I think this has a lot to do with what we saw, but it's not the only thing. So let's look at this. I decided to look at CryptoQuant, and I got an alert for this because I set this alert up a while ago. So I wanted to see how much Bitcoin and Ethereum is being deposited or being withdrawn from the exchanges. And CryptoQuant breaks it down into two kinds of exchanges, and you could break it down even more. But what I'm showing you guys right now is net flow, okay, of Bitcoin. This is like all the exchanges, all the major exchanges, Coinbase, Binance, FTX, you name it, right? All the big exchanges. And this is net flow of everyone. And you could see that the net flow today was actually negative 19,555 Bitcoins. Do you see a massive inflow of Bitcoin into exchanges? No, in fact, you're seeing a massive outflow, right? I just got done saying the holders, they're staying strong. They're buying, right? So on a day like today, you actually see a ton of people buying Bitcoin, right? They're buying by the boatloads, right? And it could be because people are smarter, or maybe some of the whales that drove market down, right? They're the ones taking advantage. But a couple interesting things. Number one is if you break this down and you look at spot exchange, well, you can see spot exchanges, non-derivatives, right? You see negative 36,000 Bitcoins. That's quite a lot. So that means people that are using FTX and Binance and Coinbase and Kraken and all these normal exchanges, what they're doing is buying and removing. But if you look at the derivative exchanges, well, that's a different story. You can see derivatives is all green, right? So there was a deposit about almost 17,000 Bitcoins into derivative exchanges. So that's a telling story. So the whales that are trying to manipulate the market, what they're doing is depositing Bitcoin in this case. And I'm not done. I'm going to show you Ethereum too, which is more eye-opening. But the whales decided to manipulate the market by using leverage, right? You would figure that. And they deposit a whole bunch of Bitcoin into derivative exchanges, probably using leverage, and then swaying, even more sell-off, right? And specifically, I don't know why for Bitcoin, most of it went into Huobi. I was looking at a lot of exchanges and breaking it down. Huobi is the one that received 41,000 Bitcoins today, right? Probably to be sold, and probably using leverage or some sort of leverage to compound the 41,000 Bitcoin, which is quite a lot already. I mean, what is the math on that? Like 800, almost $1 billion. That's like $1 billion worth of Bitcoin, thrown onto Huobi to be leveraged and sold. Yeah, it's like 900 million. That's a lot, right? So for Bitcoin, we definitely had some whales utilizing Huobi, utilizing leverage to drive things lower. But if you're looking at spot, well, spot is where all the retail investors belong, and retail continues to buy. That's quite a lot, right? But that's not the real telling story. The real telling story is this. Now we're looking at a net flow of Ethereum. Okay, and you could see that for basically 2 days straight, including today, you had massive influx or inflow of Ethereum into exchanges. Okay, so yesterday there was about 287,000 ETH being deposited. Today, about 355,000 ETH being deposited. Very different than Bitcoin. So this is what Bitcoin looks like. Okay, Bitcoin, massive outflow. But this is what Ethereum looks like. Massive inflow. And where's all this inflow going into? Well, take a look. The Bitfinex. We have seen this before. Whales are starting to not only utilize Bitcoin, but also Ethereum to manipulate the market. This is a massive inflow, 254,000 ETH flowing into Bitfinex, which we know has a ton of leverage. This is over $600 million worth of ETH, right, being deposited. And no, it's not being deposited for good reasons. It's being deposited to sell and to manipulate the market, right? So, unfortunately, I think this is what really started, obviously today because of fear, right? There's people that did panic sell, but I definitely think the whales had a lot to do with how much we fell. Bitcoin down almost 10% in a single day, right? And I do think a lot of whales took advantage of the fear, took advantage of these leverage exchanges, and brought us down even further, right? So this is definitely proof there's something going on with Bitfinex, and there's something going on with this large deposit. And overall, you could definitely tell that there's a big difference between Ethereum being deposited by the hundreds of millions versus Bitcoin that is being removed by hundreds of millions, right? Big difference. So there you go. That's my proof. Now, this also happens to be like a day before, guess what? The huge merge that's also coming, right? We know that Ethereum is about to merge. The new beacon chain is about to happen, right? So could be timed perfectly ahead of time, right? Because we know Ethereum did run up quite a bit for last month. A lot of people anticipating buy the rumor, sell the news, right? So this could be some of that in play where the whales are dumping ahead of time, ahead of the merge, right? Which could be good because after a merge, there's probably not a whole lot to be dumped anymore, right? So this could be a good thing, but I think the timing of it is I don't think it's a coincidence, right? It's timed pretty closely to the merge, which is coming tomorrow, right? Sometime tomorrow, we're going to see the merge. We're going to see a new Ethereum, right? And we'll see how that goes. But definitely a lot of whale games today. On top of the fear, a lot of whale games. But what do I always say? Why do whales manipulate the market? Because there's value, because they know the future value and they want to get people like you to panic sell, to basically sell your future life-changing wealth to them. So they can accumulate low and accumulate really cheaply, right? And they do this often. But we haven't seen something like this in a long time. Not in a long time where we have seen a huge overall market crash. We have seen Bitcoin lower, obviously, right? We have seen Bitcoin at 17,000. Just a week ago, we saw Bitcoin at 18,000, right? That's why, even though we did have this pretty big drop, right? All things considering, we are at 20,000 still, right? And we're still higher than where we were just, a few weeks ago. No, actually a week ago, right? So not all is lost. It's not as bad as it seems. We have a setback. We will get through it. We always do. And as more and more people learn about inflation and the macroeconomics of what's going on around the world, what's going on with certain countries and certain zones, and why all these countries are suffering from high inflations, as more and more people learn about it, guess who they're going to turn to? They're going to turn to Bitcoin. They're going to turn to the hardest asset that we have. And more people will turn to Bitcoin and eventually will decouple away from the U.S. market. We'll finally have a non-correlating asset, and then it'll be also treated as a risk-off asset. And then, we're not going to see the same kind of drop from both sides, like equities and crypto, right? But more and more people are starting to realize, more people are coming into this space, learning what Bitcoin is all about after learning what the Fed and central banks around the world did. The distrust is there and it's growing, right? So more and more people are learning, and that's what we want, right? It's going to take time, but the process has already started. All right. I think that's pretty much it. There's a few other things, but overall, I think this is what's important. It's just basically focus on the future. Don't give up. We have setbacks. Today was a setback, right? And I know it's disappointing, but you know what? Stay strong, and we'll get through this. And if you can, DCA, great DCA opportunity. All right. And then, you know what? Lastly, I think that's pretty much it. But if you look at the overall crypto market cap, we're at 991 billion. I know we're under a trillion, but again, all things considering, we were much lower just a week ago. So we have not lost all the gains that we had. So overall, not that bad. It seems worse than it is. That's what I'm trying to say. All right, guys, let's do some Q&A. Only money, says George. Your live stream is only allowed to go back 15 minutes to watch, not the beginning. Ooh, I just realized my camera is really dark. And it's like a real sexy vibe going on. I don't know why it's so dark. I gotta fix it. Hold on, let me see if I can fix my camera in the Q&A section real quick. There we go. All right, I got that fixed on the fly. Tony, appreciate it. I do also agree with you. I had to turn off the romantic lights there. Let's see here. Sin City Crypto, David and Robin, welcome. Let's see. Those pesky Bitfinex whales. BitMax used to be notorious. When I used to check CryptoQuant a lot more, you see all these deposits in the BitMax. But ever since Arthur Hayes and everyone else got kicked out, it stopped, right? But we still see it on Bitfinex quite a lot, right? And of course, Bitfinex always had some questionable, questionable history tied with iFinex, tied with Tether, right? So, I mean, that's why I've never been a fan of Bitfinex. How do you feel about Art Bertram? I don't really have any art. I don't really have any feelings about it. It's a promising L2 out there, just like Optimism. They're growing, but I don't really have any thoughts about them. Supernatural wealth revisions, no doubt about it. Yep, that's right. All right, now I'm a little bit caught up. Monkey Farm. Did you see the new Ferrari? Oh, I can't even pronounce that. Poro Sangu? I have no idea how to say that. But no, I didn't see it. I'll have to look it up. David, question, how much of your net worth should you have invested in crypto? In general, I don't know. It's different for everyone. It depends on how much disposable income or wealth that you have, right? If you make more than enough every single month, right, and you have a lot of extra savings, then I could argue that you could put most of that savings into crypto. But if you're not in that situation, right, and you have very little savings or little disposable income that you could put into crypto, well, then it should be a lot less. So it's really different for everyone. For me, it's like, way past 50%. YouTube watching. Gold is supposed to be uncorrelated. Is not demonstrating so. Silver the same, and now Bitcoin seems to be correlated. What gives? How do we get out of correlation? I mean, you brought this point up, and I was thinking about that same thing today, and it goes to prove that markets today are not like markets of before, especially with this recession that we're in. We're in a technical recession, meaning we had two GDP readings that went down for 2 consecutive quarters, which means technically we're in recession. But we have never seen rate hikes in a recession. We have never seen the Fed trying to curb demand in a recession. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And we've never seen unemployment so low and labor force being so strong and wages being so high in a recession either, right? So this is unlike any other recessions that we have ever seen, at least in the US. I don't know about everywhere else. So it's very different, which is why the same strategies don't work. Just look at gold. Look at what gold's price is. Has gold been going up? Has it been skyrocketing, right? Gold was always known as inflation hedge, as an uncorrelated asset, as the one thing that everyone puts their money into when there's fear. And look at what gold is doing. It went down today. It didn't go up. And it's lower than where it was 10 years ago. So silver went down too. So it shows you people are not putting money into traditional assets they used to, like gold and silver, right? So it's very different. And I know a lot of Bitcoin bugs, Bitcoin maxis, hyped up how, Bitcoin is inflation hedge. Yes, over long term, but short term it's not, because when the markets are irrational and not following how they used to, right? People are kind of just like winging it. I really honestly feel like Wall Street's kind of winging it. Everyone is being very reactionary, and they just react to the data that we see, right? It's not like they have any insight. They're just reacting. They're not proactive, right? And that's why we're seeing what we're seeing. And I do honestly believe Bitcoin is correlated right now for no other reason than a lot of Wall Street guys got in. They treat Bitcoin as a tech play, as any play, right? Maybe a highly leveraged play for them versus stocks. And they're just panicking and being reactionary, right? But eventually, as Bitcoin gets bigger and bigger and bigger, then they realize, well, it's stupid to do that. You want to be accumulating as much Bitcoin as you can, because there's not infinite amount of Bitcoin. In fact, it's getting rarer and scarcer every day. So, yeah. I was going to make that point about gold. I mean, like, really, gold has lost all. I mean, this whole narrative, lost its entire narrative that it is something that people buy during a recession or during hardship, during market crashes, during whatever, right? I think this has proved once and for all that no one does that anymore. U.S. dollar strong. Why is the U.S. dollar strong, though? That's also something that doesn't make a whole lot of sense, right? Until you really think about it. Why does the DXY keep going up? When inflation is so high and Powell potentially is going to crush families and businesses, right? if that's the case, if we're going to go into deep recession, and not just a technical recession, a deep recession that's going to really harm millions of people, how could the DXY go up? How could the dollar go up? Well, it's because I've mentioned at the beginning, other countries that the dollars are versus or pegged against, like the euro, like the British pound, like the Canadian dollar, like the Japanese yen, they're all doing worse, much, much worse. That's why the DXY continues to go up. And that's why today it went up almost to 110, right? So as bad as it seems like the US is, other places are honestly worse. That's why the DXY is going up. And traditionally, yes, when the DXY goes up, it's not good for equities or crypto. But you got to think, why would the DXY go up when inflation is so high and people are panicking, right? This is the reason. So again, this is unlike any other recession that we have seen before. It's a very different time. Well, the good news is there's a George pump going on right now. So that's good. So we're seeing Bitcoin come up a little bit to 20,500. It would be amazing that we see a short squeeze and that we see Bitcoin go right back up to where we were this morning to like 22.5. That would be amazing to see by tomorrow morning. I don't think it'll happen, but you know, who knows? Stranger things have happened before. Yo, the real estate pro. Hey, George, Ray Dalio keeps saying that by the end of the year, we'll have the worst recession ever. What do you think? I can't disagree with Ray Dalio. He is one of the most brilliant financial minds ever in history. But the thing is, Ray Dalio has been saying that for like 10 plus years. You look at some of the interviews that he has done 5 years ago, 10 years ago, he's been saying that. He's been saying the collapse of the US dollar, collapse of, you know, the Federal Reserve for a long time. And, you know, once upon a time, he told everyone to buy gold. Now he's saying, well, you know, you need to stock up on gold and possibly some Bitcoin. So he has changed his mind a little bit. He's more pro Bitcoin, so that's great. But, you know, he's been calling the demise for quite some time. And who knows, maybe it does come. Maybe everything does collapse and he's correct. But, you know, kind of like Robert Kiyosaki, the author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, has been saying that for so long. It's like at some point, maybe they're right. But right now, I don't think we're anything close to that. Now, can we go deeper in recession? Sure. Kathy Wood also thinks so. Kathy Wood thinks that Powell is going to put the U.S. in depression, not just recession, that he's going to put us in depression. And maybe that does happen. Maybe at the end of the year that does happen. But right now, the numbers still, which can be manipulated, but there are certain things that are showing that we're not close to there yet. Enjoyed Rich Q. Appreciate that, man. I enjoyed talking to Tim. Good guy. I'll probably do it more of it. I'll try to do more appearances on other channels. So I like doing interviews. Miguel, shouldn't we see jobs decline year to year since technology is taking more and more jobs? It is, but not that quickly, not within a year. Jobs are declining, but very slowly. We're seeing unemployment tick up just very slightly. So overall, it's not that quick. It's not like we all have like robots that's taking away all the jobs all of a sudden. No, it's going to take some time, right? And the technology companies right now, basically they're slowing down their hiring too. So, yep. Guys asking, what do you think about Ripple? I'm glad you asked because I have a video to show you guys about it. John, I'm a 66-year-old. Sold some Bitcoin, bought more cheaper. Congratulations. I never know when to take my last breath. I never know when I mean, I think everyone is in that same position, regardless if you're 66 or 30 or 20. You just don't know, right? You gotta live your day like it's your last. I know that's so cliche, and no one actually does that, but honestly, that's the truth. That's how you should live. Retail investors are ready and bullish crypto, but unfortunately, sentiment crypto influencers are bearish. We need more of George. Hey, that's me, right? I know short term could be bad. We have a lot of stuff that we're going through, a lot of headwinds that Bitcoin is facing, and it's being pushed down currently, right? There's no doubt about it, but the long-term prospects of Bitcoin is unchanged. And my belief in Bitcoin and my belief in blockchain and Web 3.0 and everything else that has barely scratched the surface today, right, will become the big things that everyone talks about in the future. So this is really getting in. It's like starting over, like having the ability to invest in internet companies right before the dot-com bubble, and then the dot-com bubble, burst, right? And everyone was like, oh, screw tech, screw everything, right? Screw Amazon, screw Microsoft. They're all scams, right? But the people that held on, continued to DCA over the last 20 years, they're like billionaires today. It's the same thing with what we're going through right now. It's very early. There's a lot of emerging technologies, emerging ideas. They will become the future powerhouses in the future. Dylan says, millionaires are made in bear markets. Never forget. That is true. And billionaires. Was in a hospital last month, 4 days, and honestly, it made me stop caring about these dips, DCA, until I'm broke or rich. Well, congratulations. That's the right mindset. Sometimes I know it's bad. Sometimes it's bad. Like, you don't have to stick with your phone every day, right? Or every minute. Like this today, after my stream, worked on a few things, right? Took care of myself, got my mind cleared, right? That's it. Sometimes you just got to do that. Sometimes you just got to clear your mind, right? You can't be checking your portfolio every 5 minutes or every 5 seconds. It's not good for your mental health. Someone says, I'm confident if I short Bitcoin right now, it will shoot up to 2324. Well, if you're so sure, I go ahead. I encourage you to do it. But it would be amazing to see that you could definitely see that after hitting our local bottom today, about 19.8, now we're kind of swinging upwards, right? It would be amazing to see us swing right back up to 22.2 tomorrow and be right back to where we were. That would be amazing, yet it would be unsurprising to me. We have seen periods like that before. Today's drop is actually nothing, and a lot of you guys know that, especially if you lived through the last 8 months. We have seen worse crashes. So it would not surprise me if something like that happened. Do you think tequila or Black Label will help my headache? Both. I was never a tequila fan until I went to Cancun and started drinking a lot of tequila, and it's good stuff. It's good stuff. Black Label, I don't know about Black Label. You got to get the good stuff. Get Blue Label. Sats Anonymous. I have a friend who says Bitcoin has no value. I have my message. How would you explain Bitcoin's value to someone? All right, first of all, here's the thing. All right, there will be people that you can't convince, right? And even though you may try, they just won't believe it. It doesn't. It doesn't matter what you say, right? So if that's your friend, hopefully not. But if he is, then maybe he's a lost cause. But you know what? It is what it is. But if he isn't, explain to him this, right? Bitcoin is a store value and it's a decentralized network. Those two things are very important. A decentralized network that's not controlled by anyone. Think about what's going on with social media, right? Any network that's run by Facebook, Microsoft, Apple, Google, right, can be taken away from you. Any account can be taken away from you. Any bank can be taken away from you. Anything that's not decentralized in the world can be taken away from you, right? You can't do that with Bitcoin's network. If you make a transaction on the ledger, it's going to happen. If someone sends you 1 Bitcoin, 100 Bitcoins, 1,000,000 Bitcoins, it's going to happen and be recorded on the ledger, right? First of all, that's worth a lot by itself. To have a decentralized network that can't be stopped by anyone, right? There's nothing else like it out there. Nothing that we use right now. All the apps, everything that we have financially can be shut down and taken away from you, but not Bitcoin. So that in itself has a ton of value, right? And then as a store of value, well, just explain what's going on with inflation, right? Why are we in this inflation? Why do we have high inflation right now? Why is the whole world suffering from high inflation? It's because of the carelessness of the Federal Reserve and the central banks around the world. They print money out of nothing. There's no set supply. They can print infinitely. They can print another 10 trillion tomorrow. No one can stop them, right? Bitcoin is set in code. You can't do that. It's following the order, right? The halving event until there is no more, right? So it's very different. And Bitcoin is global. It's not constrained to one country, right? So it's also global, and more people and countries are adopting it. So as a store of value, it's only gaining. The network strength, the network addresses, the hash rate, they're all going up, right? So these two things, that's how I would explain it. But, some people don't care about all that. All they care about is, well, the price went down $1,000 today, right? That means it's worth nothing. Well, there's some people that refuse to listen. Well, then more for you, right? Just think about it that way. Imagine George smoking weed. Wow. That would be pretty cool. Although I never tried, never puffed before, so. No, I don't know anything about Pi Network, so can't talk about it. BDC is the government, NSA. I don't know if you're kidding about that. McCullen 18. Man, I have 12. Not the biggest fan. I have not tried McCullen 18. I'll have to. SEC can't shut down anything. First of all, I said Bitcoin is global. SEC is not global. Okay. It's one of those things where you try to shut down a miner or a farm or people, right? They get fed up and they'll go somewhere else that is more pro, right? So it's kind of like that. And there's no way that the U.S. is coming anywhere close to shutting down Bitcoin because we have, first of all, a lot of friends in Congress, a lot of people in high places that are bag holders. They're not going to let it happen. Gensler is under a lot of pressure. And who knows? BlackRock makes a call. Boom. We'll have a spot Bitcoin ETF. That's around the corner too. So, yeah. It's not as easily done as some people may think. Why are you more bullish on Avalanche than Solana? What makes you think that? You're making an assumption. You're like, please answer. I've been asking this 100 times before. No, you haven't, because I would recognize it. And this is the first time I've seen your name. And no, I never said that before. I think Solana has its problems, but they're still one of the big caps out there. They have a lot of momentum, and they have a lot of fans, right? So I don't think they're going to go anywhere. And Avalanche, the same thing. But Solana needs to prove that they need to solve their issues first with their network outages and stuff like that. So that's why they've been weaker recently. Definitely try weed. Maybe. Bullish Stevie, thank you. Do you like the new Golf R? I've seen it in person. I have not driven it. It's like more or less the same. You know, these hot hatches, they're getting kind of boring to me. You know, they're kind of like a dying breed. Pretty soon there'll be no 6-speed manuals anymore. Everything will be a dual clutch, and then soon after that, everything will not have a transmission anymore and just be in EV form, right? So Golf R is kind of just getting lost in the shuffle right now, honestly. I'm drinking my Remy Martin Louis the 13 when Bitcoin gets back to 60. Oh yeah, I did try that before at one of the Brazilian places. I think it's a brandy, right? It was one of the smoothest drinks I've ever drank before. I've not tried Don Julio 1942. Do you think tech is a primary driver in deflation? Yes. Over long haul, yes. As tech improves, increases efficiencies, decreases the need for labor, so overall it should be deflationary. And it has been, but it takes time. It's not going to be immediate. It takes decades before you really notice it, right? So yes. So right now, if you're trying to ask, well, you know, to get inflation under control, we just need to put more money into tech, right? Well, yeah, that's not going to happen. We're not going to see the fruits of that for quite some time. Do you lose your crypto when it goes to zero? No, you don't. Basically, nothing goes to zero. There'll be a lot of decimal points, but it's still there. You could still have it in your wallet. But the network, the chain is offline, then you can't do anything with it. You own it, but you can't do anything with it. But you don't lose it, technically. You still hold it. Take a vacation in Maine. It's beautiful in the fall and we have legal weed. Don't we have legal weed in basically all the states now? But still, I don't know if I can get myself to try. There's just something taboo about it. I don't know. Harshad Patel, no problem. Are we just gonna keep pumping and dumping on Fed reports every month? I know it's tiresome. I don't want to see it happen, but unfortunately, yeah, for quite some time. Not every Fed report is bad. The month before was actually good. It's just this month we went reversed. In reverse, I should say. All right, guys. I'm going to let you guys go. Overall, let's see what tomorrow... Well, tomorrow could be green. Bitcoin right now is coming up a little bit, right? So, again, I know today was a setback, right? It wasn't good overall. But you know what? A lot of what we saw today, I know CPI, inflation, macro stuff really drove us down. But I think a lot of it was also due to whale games. So I showed you guys a whole lot of stuff was happening on derivative exchanges with Ethereum and with Bitcoin, right? So I do think there's a lot of whale games going on. And why are they going on? It's because they want to pick up cheap crypto. And this is definitely a time not to be giving up. Not all hope is lost. It kind of sucks, but we will get through this together. We will. All right? So stay strong, my friends. Smash the like, subscribe to the channel. I'll see you guys tomorrow, bright and early, 8:15 a.m. Central Standard Time. All right? Tom, I do take it already. It doesn't really help. All right. Have a good one, guys. Oh, by the way, I did have something to show you guys, so take a look before you go.
What do you think about Ripple?
Well, I mean, I think it's too centralized, but I definitely want to meet Chris Larson. Yeah.